This is the Varg. It's an electric motocross bike from Stark Futures, the Spanish bike maker. The price starts at 250,000 Rand. But after you add extras and unlock all its features, that price goes up to more than 280,000 Rand. That's a lot of money, especially as an ordinary 450cc MX bike is somewhere a little north of 200,000 Rand. Where does all this extra money go? Well, part of it is that logo where the petrol tank will normally sits. That logo is real 24 karat gold. I suppose that costs something. Otherwise, in standard trim, this bike pushes 60 horsepower, which is more or less bang on the same as a 450 MX bike. However, it also comes with a cell phone, an ordinary functional cell phone that doubles as the dash. And on there you can put your credit card details, and for an additional 20,000 Rand, it will produce 80 horsepower, 20 more than a 450 MX bike. And that's not bad.
It's my first time riding an electric dirt bike on a motocross track, and boy, this thing is a bit of a game changer. I was a bit nervous coming into the bike, didn't know what to expect, and it's very expensive, so I was scared to drop it. But boy, this thing just blew my mind.
We are at Terratopia north of Joburg for the launch of the Varg and to see what all the fuss is about. There's a reason 450s don't make much more than 60 horsepower, because they become handfuls otherwise. How does the Varg get away with 80?
What stood out for me the most was the power delivery, although we even put it on 70, 80 horsepower, which is insane. But when you lay on the gas, it's very smooth delivery. So when you're going into a corner, it just feels like traction control. Like it just doesn't spin, keeps traction and hooks up through the ruts. So really, it felt like it was making me a better rider through every single lap I did.
However, using the cell phone, you can set the power to pretty much any level you like. Of course, the famous downside of electric vehicles is the weight, because that battery pack weighs a ton. And yet the Varg tips the scales at 118 kilograms, roughly 10 more than a 450. That's not too bad. But what is clever is that the weight is all low down and very compact. Plus there's no heavy crankshaft spinning, no camshaft spinning, and no gearbox spinning. That all makes a bigger difference than you might think.
So I was a bit surprised when they said to me it's about 10 k's heavier than your normal 450. And then when you pick it up, it feels heavier for sure, but when you're riding it, the weight just disappears. So I never understood the inertia that an engine makes, especially going through the air. When you're going through the air, you can just bring the bike, whip it at an angle and move the bike around, and the engine, the inertia of the engine is not stopping you, so it's not limiting you. So I thought the reason why they're getting those crazy whips on these things is because they're lighter. Actually, it's because of the engine inertia. So it makes the biggest difference. And so that's where I think, just because of that alone and the power delivery and the smoothness on it, that makes it a game changer, for real, for sure.
The main frame is steel, while the swing arm and subframe are aluminium. The suspension is by KYB, and more so when you order the bike, Stark will set the suspension up according to your weight. That's pretty cool.
The suspension on this bike is really, really good. I come from a KTM, and WP comes out a bit stock, so you got to do some work on the stock suspension and pay a bit of money. Whereas what I like about this, you pay a bit more out the box, but it comes with decent suspension, so you don't need to fork out that extra bucks. It's got Pirelli tires, handles really, really well. Takes some getting used to, because when you land from a jump, you hear the cuckoo. You can hear everything, and whereas normally the engine noise is hiding all that, so it feels a bit weird listening to all these noises. So it takes some getting used to, but it's really, really cool. I mean, I do miss the sound of an engine and a screaming two-stroke. It's something that will, always stay close to my heart. But I do think this is the future, and I think everything's going to go this way, hands down. I think they took a leap and a bound ahead. So yeah, I think it's good things coming.
Speaking of noise, the lack thereof is a matter of contention, understandably. The bang of a petrol motor is a huge part of what gives motorcycles their character. Also, there's no gearbox, no clutch, and no gear lever. The lever on the left handlebar is the rear brake, a bit like a bicycle.
Yes, I do miss the engine noise a bit. Like when you're riding it, you're not sure how fast to go, especially when you're rolling on the jump and there's no gears, so you're not sure. So it takes a bit of figuring out to get used to, but you figure it out quicker than I thought. I thought it's going to take me a lot longer to adapt, especially with the brake being on the left hand. I ended up looking for my rear brake on the front. I couldn't find it, but yeah, it actually surprised myself how quick you get used to it, and everything just works so well. I mean, you can see the R&D that they put into this thing, it's next level and amazing. I think that's what took them so long to launch this bike, but it shows, for real, it really, really shows.
While the noise will be missed, it could be the saving grace of motocross. In England every year, 1 in 5 MX tracks closes down because of noise. And it's a similar story all over the world. Riding without engine noise is better than not riding at all. The next concern about the electric alternative is the range. The Varg has a charger built into its pit stand, so while the bike is pitted, the stand plugs into the socket and into the motorbike. A full battery ridden consistently around an MX track will last roughly an hour, and with a strong current, it'll take 45 minutes to charge up to 80% and up to 2 hours to get up to 100%.
The battery life, look, I like to ride and put a lot of hours on the bike, but then again, you can do 2 solid motors on it, and then it takes 45 minutes to charge. So you can still get a bit of a break and ride. So I would like to see a bit more battery life in the future, maybe not for the motocross, but for the enduro guys. So maybe that can open a door for the enduro market as well. I know they are working on it, so it's going to be exciting to see. For motocross, I think it's fine. I think it's still okay.
So is it worth the extra 60,000 Rand? In many ways, yes. It clearly has the performance to keep up with the petrol bikes, and even more so. And even more than that in Johannesburg, where the petrol bikes lose 70% of their power because of the altitude. The Varg couldn't care less about altitude, and correspondingly doesn't have an air filter that needs to be cleaned after every ride. As Mike says, it also arrives with all the bells and whistles. More so, there's no expensive fuel, and that electric motor requires just 18mm of oil. So this is the future, and it might not be as bleak as everyone thinks.